So hello fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And why do people not know when they've had enough? I wanted to, and I mean enough by money, by houses, by cars, by whatever else you could think of. Why don't we know when we've had enough? And we don't need to get any more. Maybe we can devote the time and effort to helping other people at a particular point. Why is it that we don't know when we've had enough? You know, I quantify how many years I might possibly have left. It could be another 50 years, another 60 years. It certainly isn't likely that I'll live 50 more years. Maybe, 10 years is solid, 20 years, 30 years, reasonable. But my point in thinking about how many more years I have is that I have a good handle as to what I do and how I spend my money, etc. I can project forward and see the likelihood of how much money I'll need. I can make a list of the things that I'd want to do in life and come up with an assessment of how much money I need. It's good to save and it's good to make money up to a point. I can't understand, well actually I do, and I guess I'm coming to that. But at the same time, it is amazing, silly, just wasteful to imagine rich people having a house here, there, and everywhere. Most of the time they know that they're not going to use most of these houses that they buy. Most of the time they must know that they're not going to use most of the rooms in these houses that they buy with all of these different rooms. Most of the time they must know that they have a routine, and as an individual or a family or whatever the case might be, anybody can sit down and map out how much money that they're likely to need in their life. And we might say, well, my taste might change. I might want a better car. I might want a chef. I might want this. I might want that. Yeah, you might want it. People have, and I remember this thing that this minimalist girl that I saw on YouTube mentioned. And I think that is an overriding problem for most people. We have our real self. We have what we really do, what we're really going to do, what we really have done. And we have our aspirational selves, the selves that we would like to become, or the way that we would like to see ourselves, or the things that we would like to do. But if we really sit down and think about it, we're never really going to do those things. Just based on time, just based on priorities, just based on opportunity. And if we really take a hard look at ourselves, we can recognize the difference between that aspirational self and the real hardcore self. Unfortunately, most of us are never going to sit down with a pencil and paper or on our phones and map out and recognize who we really are as opposed to who we would like to be. And even if we can recognize who we are, we might not want to give up on those things. I know for myself, I have great ideas. I'm sure lots of us have great ideas. And you know what I do with them? I put them in my calendar to keep them in my psyche, my personal zeitgeist, that one day I may do this, or I might want to do that, or I might want to do the other. And based on my lifestyle, I know that 90% of them I am never going to get to. For one thing, there are things that are really high on my list of priorities, and in order to get good at them, I cannot put aside the time for all of these things. I'm not going to be great at everything, and I certainly don't want to be okay at a lot of things. I would like to be okay actually at a lot of things, but really good at some things. But that's what I do. I mark these things down, and I'm not. One of the things that I realize in life is that some of the things that I buy in preparation for this new me, or this new life, or this thing that I plan to do, they just sit down there for years, maybe even decades. They sit down there looking at me, and I looking at them every once in a while, but the time isn't ready yet. And maybe another decade will pass, and another decade, and then I'm at the end of my life, can't do them, spent money on them, they're taking up space, and I should have known 30 years before, probably 40 years before, probably 20, a long time ago, if I could just sit back and take a hard look at myself. And even for those of us who have the means to get this and get that and get the other, why is it important to get these things and miss out on the important things? And during this time of this pandemic, a lot of people are forced to re-examine their lives. The problem is, it depends on how you look at it. Many people will permanently adjust their lives, and many other people will not. And there are many of those people who will not, they would have seen that their lives can be better, but they just went back to the old way. And it is just so sad that we don't recognize that we barely need, as much as we do compared to a hunter-gatherer. We need enough to fill our bellies, right? We need to be full. And, we probably need to have people around us that we like, that we spend time with. We need to devote a certain amount of time to gathering, the food and whatever it is that we need to eat, and to, make sure that we're sheltered and all this other stuff. And then all of the rest of things that we do are just, we feel like we're advanced, and we're not advanced. We are just submerged in excess that we don't need, and we just pile on more and more. It comes down to this. I remember I was telling my mother this a couple days ago, and it's good to remember these things. I remember there was a time when, I think for 3 days out of the week, I was swamped, back to back to back stuff. As soon as I got up in the morning, I had to go to work. As soon as I got back from work, I had to go to school. As soon as I got from school, it was everything until like about 8 or 9 at night or something, some kind of craziness like that. It was just really hard and difficult for me at the time. The other 4 days of the week weren't really that bad, but I wanted to complain, and I wanted people to feel sorry for me. So I was telling that to a friend of mine, and she broke down. She said, how much time do you have to spend in classes? How much time do you have to spend in work? How much time do you need to study? How much time do you need to sleep? And she broke it all down for me. and really didn't like it. And I've told this story before. I didn't like it when she could show me just how much actual time that I actually had. I didn't want to see it. Because if I sat down to watch TV and I watched 2 hours of TV, oh my God, at the end of it, that wasn't enough. If I watched 4 hours of TV, oh my God, or not even just TV, just relaxing or just doing whatever I felt like, reading a book, whatever it might be. At the end of a certain amount of time, it was never enough. If it was, let's say, for example, I was reading a book, I wanted as much time as it would take for me to finish that book. That's the amount of free time that I wanted, really. And I did not want to hear that if I just managed my time better, I would have enough time to study and to work and to sleep and to eat and to play and to watch TV, because enough was never enough. I wanted all. I wanted to spend all of my time doing whatever I wanted to do. And there was 3 days that were just full back to back to back stuff for maybe 12 or, felt like 15 hours. I just wanted someone to feel sorry for me. And I think it's the same thing with all of us in terms of it's never enough. And that's what I was telling my mother. If we're not disciplined, if we can't control ourselves, if we cannot fight through the first 30 seconds of getting up and stopping whatever it is we're doing to start the next thing, because that's the worst amount of time. The time that it takes to stop. Once you start doing the next thing, you're fine. And when it comes to people who are working too much and people who are fighting to make more money when they have more than enough in their life, when there are people who are looking for a better deal, a better this, a better that, and they're making $300,000 a year as an individual, or $500,000 a year as, someone with a family, or $1 million, or $5 million, or $20 million, or nobody really cares. The only difference is a little bit of pride that you feel at the end of, you look at the number, you feel good, and then you go for the next, and the next, and the next. And your family, as Kevin Hart will say, they're getting older and they're growing up, and these moments you'll never get back. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works. And that's probably not even how life works, as in living things. Anyway, wish me lucks. You can like or unlike, you can comment, subscribe and or share. And that's what Lux means. And of course, it's not preferred, but you can even do nothing. Peace.